So Deadpool 3, as you all know, is the one project for the Marvel Cinematic Universe that Disney is placing all of their bets on. They are 100% banking on this movie to make a significant profit at the box office, and if all things go wrong, 2024 is going to be off to a terrible start to begin with. Now, we already know that there's this ongoing battle between Ryan Reynolds and the Disney heads over creative differences for the third act of the film. There's been a lot of things happening between his overall vision of the final act of the movie and what Bob Iger is pushing for overusage of DEI, also known as diversity, equity, and inclusion, into many of the characters, the surprise cameos, etc., etc. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. So one thing about the third Deadpool film is that director Shawn Levy, in case you guys did not know, he is the one directing this film, has really been working very hard with writers Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick to make this movie work in the best format possible. Now, one thing about Ryan Reynolds is that we all know that he's been struggling with Bob Iger. He made a series of ultimatums that some of which Disney caved to, others of which Disney disagreed with, and they're still putting their foot down and moving forward with overusage of DEI into the last act of this movie, which also spells a recipe of disaster when it comes to a film like that. However, what's interesting about all of this has a lot to do with how Ryan Reynolds exposed Disney behind the scenes when it comes to their overall agenda, their ideology getting spilled into Deadpool 3 that is absolutely going to tarnish this movie if it keeps on pushing forward. Now, with the Ryan Reynolds drama only getting more severe for Disney's sake for this year, one major development has to do with the production of Deadpool 3, where Ryan Reynolds recently exposed Disney behind the scenes. As it turns out, the creatives behind the third Deadpool film recently had a brief meeting over the direction of the film. This included those like writers Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick, along with director Shawn Levy. Many members of the cast were involved in this group meeting, such as Hugh Jackman. One crucial update to this development is that Ryan Reynolds exposed all of Disney's attempts to push an agenda for last-minute filming for the third act of the film to the entire cast and crew, those that were unaware about this previously, and how he is now in full creative differences, of course, with Disney. This was made public from Ryan Reynolds to all the cast and crew members behind the scenes to keep them in the know why production hit a standstill for a couple of weeks that may or may not create a delay for the release date. Much of this had to do with Ryan informing the cast and crew about Disney's push for their overusage of DEI into the third act of the film, and certain cameo characters getting forced for cancellation from the third act of the film that he is trying to save by reasoning with the Disney heads. What this did in return is that it allowed more individuals to stand by Ryan's side, to go up against Disney and defend his vision for what's right in the story as opposed to ideology or a hidden agenda on Disney's end. Even Hugh Jackman, surprisingly, is now fully aware of the entire situation after Ryan exposed Disney's actions behind the scenes, with Jackman now defending Ryan Reynolds to save the third act of the film, as they know this is a project that Ryan has been trying to create for years. Now, this is set to create a stronger force against Disney to create more pressure on the bigwigs, including Bob Iger, who is the main source of pushing these messages into the film that Ryan has been disagreeing with for the past number of weeks now. With the entire cast and crew now fully aware about what Disney intends to do, this is also creating more tensions for the production of the film. This actually caused director Shawn Levy to stand up by Ryan's side, to defend him as well, to face Disney's actions, in order to save the final act of the film that is reportedly the most important part for characters like Wade Wilson and Wolverine. Now guys, before I get to the big conclusion about this, let me just say one thing about what Ryan did here that is so perfect, is that he is not only creating more people to stand up by his side against Disney, but he is informing everyone now behind the scenes why production has been sluggish when it comes to the third act. So it's not necessarily that the filming stopped or came to a complete halt, but it has been slowed down. It has been drastically, pretty much hitting these brick walls or hitting these roadblocks, time out, for Ryan Reynolds for the overall production of the film. We already know that the January principal photography, wrap-up session is not going to happen at this point. They wanted to get done filming by the first week of January. We can already see that filming is proceeding, and it's going to be delayed somewhat. Whether or not that's going to create a delay for the release date is really up in the air right now. They're still locked in for that July release date window. And if things go further, if things push until March, you're not going to get that July release date. That's just a given fact. They're most likely going to then have to push it until September. So I have hope, and I do have a lot of faith that Ryan will get his way and that Disney will cave to more of their demands now, given that a lot of cast and crew members are beginning to stand up against Disney and really defending Ryan Reynolds and his vision of the third Deadpool film. And by the way, this is a project that Ryan Reynolds has been fighting for a very long time now and wanted to get it made. And I'm still left scratching my head, why you would want to deal with Disney in the first place, but that's just my point of view on things. But what's interesting about this further is that those high up at Disney are fully aware about the rest of the cast and crew being made aware by Reynolds about the conflicts happening with studio interference that, if not controlled, could very well turn the third act into a Hellboy 2019 situation that occurred due to studio interference as well by Lionsgate, something Reynolds is desperately trying to avoid right now. I don't know if you guys remember the Hellboy remake back in 2019, but that had a similar situation where Lionsgate had a lot of involvement, a lot of their interference, and it wasn't necessarily from agenda-driven strategies, but it was creative differences being thrown into that film that really stirred things up for not just the crew, but a lot of the cast members involved, including David Harbour there. But what's interesting about Ryan Reynolds here is that he's got a lot more people on his side now. It's not just writers Paul Wernick and Rhett Reese. He's also got director Sean Levy now. He's got Hugh Jackman. He's got a lot of the other cast members that are standing up by his side to really attempt desperately to reason with Disney that this is not the way to go about doing things with the overusage of ideology. And again, this is another example that Bob Iger lied last week, where he said that they are all about promoting, art over ideology. Where in reality, Bob Iger's, doing things backwards. It's all about ideology over art to him. That's really what's going on here when it comes to many of these upcoming Marvel projects, what's going on with the Rey Star Wars movie. There's a lot to talk about that as well. Stay tuned. But interestingly enough, I think at the end of the day, given that Disney already caved into some ultimatums that Ryan gave to Disney in order to negotiate with some of the creative differences to settle those out, I am still holding out some hope that Ryan is going to get his way when it comes to preventing all of this nonsense getting spilled in to the third act and into the mid and post-credit scene. So overall, guys, I would like to hear your overall stance on this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.